The history of writing is a very fascinating subject that a lot of times I think we as humans forget about and don't think about all the steps that it took to get to the point where we are, where we can just type something on a computer and just send it out to whoever we need to. Um, but if you look back on the history, it's a really cool thing to see the progression of where it came from and where it once was. The first writing was invented sometime around 3200 BC in Sumer. Writing was invented independently in different countries throughout the world because there was no way for them to communicate to each other, so they each had their own different progressions into creating writing, and they all used different languages and alphabets. And then you see the technology come in the writing aspect, and that to me is the most interesting part, because that's where you see the little steps it took to get to where we are today, and how we use some of the same things that we used a long time ago. And everyone knows that it started out with just people carving things into the rocks, and different symbols and stuff that meant different things, and to see the progression to now where it's just like you just type and it's done is amazing to me. Ink really became a big factor in writing as well, and we still use that today too, which is cool. And back then they used the reed, and they would carve the reed and create a pen out of the reed. And then in Europe, the quill pen, which you see in the movies where they dip it in the ink and write on the paper, that started become a thing. And then now it's up to those pens that are just plastic, and you just click and write, and really there's no effort into us using those. You don't have to dip, you don't have to worry about spilling the ink, anything like that. But probably the coolest part of writing as a whole, after studying the history of it, is being able to see the printing process and how that started to create. And I was doing some research about it, and it says the earliest known woodblock printed text was discovered in the 1960s during the excavation of a stupa at the Pogorska Temple in Korea, and it's believed to be dated from 704 to 751 CE. The oldest dated complete printed book of block writing is in the Diamond Sutra, which found at Dunhuang in China, which bears the date of 11 May 868 CE. And then in Europe, Johannes Gutenberg, a goldsmith from Mainz, Germany, was the first to print with movable type. And there's no connection between his invention and then what happened in East China. And then in 1455, the Gutenberg Bible was his masterpiece he came up with and printed out. And the big part, which we still see today in printing, was lithography, which was invented by Alois Seinfelder in the 1790s. And during the 20th century, that's where you see his work start to show. A large number of different printing and copying systems were introduced into workplaces, and the automated composing systems and many proprietary methods for copying documents were supplemented in the 1950s with photo composition, using projected images as a means of composing a page of type that could be printed using lithographic plates, which is cool because we use that today, and that was created back in 1790, which is a long time ago. And then you start to see the typewriter start to be used more and more, and that evolves into the computer, into the laptop, which now is just can be less than 2 pounds, and you just fold it, carry it, and you have a computer wherever you go. Now you have those little handheld phones that are practically computers, which is just cool to see. And I got a lot of this information. It was a timeline on bl.uk, and it just showed the history of writing, which it was nice to see the breakdown of each process and the steps. Thanks.